Hello everyone, my name is Stef van der Ziel and I'm an entrepreneur from Groningen, next door here to Drachten. I was born in Loppersum. Maybe you know about Loppersum. Today it's been famous for being the epicenter of earthquakes, unfortunately. And these are not natural earthquakes, these are man-made earthquakes because of natural gas exploration. And 2 years ago, I was asked by people from the national government what I, as an entrepreneur who tends to think out of the box, whether I could come up with brilliant ideas to get some power into the region, because a lot of people were depressed and angry about what was done to them. And I thought of this and I said, of course, but first of all, I want to do a presentation towards you. So I did a presentation to a lot of politicians and I said to them, you are a junkie. You are all addicted to gas revenues and energy taxations. And that's why you are causing damage to houses, to the local economy. The strange thing is that natural gas is in the ground. It's there for free. You can get it out for almost free. But in the Netherlands, the taxation for energy is the highest in Europe. That doesn't make sense. Energy should be a necessity of life, like water and food and shelter. You should not tax energy. But I said, you are all junkies. You are addicted to the revenues of taxation on energy. And being a junkie, we cannot trust you. Because a junkie says this, but does that. So our government says, we need to go to new resources for energy, like windmills, etc. But in reality, their own financial system is based on taxation of energy. So you cannot trust them with what they're doing. So I told them, we cannot trust you. You act like a junkie. You're also a dealer. You make people addicted to money flows from energy as well. So we are stuck in a system and the government is not changing anything about this. Actually, the government is responsible for making people secure, right? But actually you're damaging our houses and you're damaging people's jobs because energy companies or companies who once went to Groningen for cheap energy are now paying the highest taxes for companies in Europe. So those companies move away. So people have damage to their houses, cannot sell their homes, they have paid the highest price for energy, and they have no job. So what's the future in there, right? That's not a very positive future. So I said, the problem is that actually democracy fails here, because whatever you're voting, left wing, right wing, whatever you're voting, the government doesn't change. There will be no party that will say, okay, let's stop getting money from energy in the next few years, because they will lose all their voters. So I said that's a big problem, because people individually cannot change and the government cannot change, so we need to go cold turkey in some way. We need to get you off your addiction. The problem is that we all are addicted. We're not addicted to the gas money, we are addicted to comfort. We want power and energy in our homes all the time. So we are addicted to comfort and the government is addicted to money. So they said, well, okay, thank you for calling us a junkie. So what are you going to do about this? Because you're an entrepreneur, maybe you can come up with an idea. So I took on that challenge and I started to calculate. And I found out that the average household in Groningen spends 200 euros per month on their energy bill. 90% of that is tax. Actually, taxation on electricity is 500%. That's insane. So that's just 1 month. But after 12 months, after a year, that's 2,400 euros. After 10 years, that's 24,000 euros. And after 30 years, that's 72,000 euros you're spending on energy, given that the energy prices stay the same. They will presumably go up. So you will infinitely keep spending money on energy. And so I thought, well, that's a lot of money. That's for one household. So I started to talk to a lot of people who are in energy transition, and they convinced me that you could actually invest 40,000 euros into a single home on average to completely take it off the grid. Completely off the grid, self-sustained. That's 40,000 euros. That's 32,000 euros cheaper than just paying for energy for 30 years. So I thought, hey, well, that's interesting. Here's a business case. We can actually offer energy, your comfort, cheaper than the existing fossil industry can do. So it's not about the environment, why people switch. It's money. If you can make it cheaper and easier for them, and more sexier, hopefully, they are more willing to switch. But who has 40,000 euros? Not that many people do. So I also talked to a lot of people in Groningen. They were all angry at the government and at the fossil industry, right? But I said, every month that you pay your bill for energy, you are feeding this system. You are feeding this junkie. So if you cannot vote and change the system, vote with your money. Spend your money elsewhere. So let's make it easy for people to make this switch. There's also another problem in this region, is the economic power of the region is poor, especially in Groningen. There's a poor economy. So I said, well, if we can get 72,000 euros away from the energy companies and the government and keep it in the province, and if we do that for 275,000 households, that's 660 million euros per year, just for the province of Groningen. After 10 years, that's 6.6 billion euros. After 30 years, that's almost 20 billion euros of money not flowing to the government, to the addicted government and the fossil companies, but money spent here in the region. So if you want to optimize the economy, make sure people keep more money in the pockets and they spend it locally, and the economy will flourish. If you make sure that you can create new technologies and innovate those technologies here, and get production technologies in the province, you create jobs, you create innovation, jobs, knowledge. So if you calculate this not just for the province of Groningen, but for the entire Netherlands, we can actually divert 350 billion euros over 30 years away from the government to the people's pockets. So the only challenge, as I said, is how many people have 40,000 euros? Not that many do. So I've been talking to a lot of people and we came up with a new idea. We want to take over your energy bill, collectively. You start paying your energy bill to us. And we will go to the existing energy companies and say, okay, we want to buy a wholesale contract because we have a lot of volume, so we will get discounts with those energy companies. And that means that you instantly will pay less for your existing energy bill today. The second step is that we will finance this 40,000 euros on average for your home. So you can either do this individually or hook up with your neighbors, or with your street, or your small town, or your city part, and collectively think of a solution to go off the grid, entirely off the grid. And the great thing is that there are a lot of cooperations starting in the northern part of the Netherlands. There are already 50 initiatives from people themselves with their neighbors to start such energy cooperations. So we want to help them with funding and make sure that those houses are getting off the grid. And we don't really care about which technology is being used, because you want to be able to use any technology. And speaking of technology, I was talking about 40,000 euros to get a single home off the grid. But if that's for one house, imagine what it would do with the price if you do it for 10,000 or 100,000 homes. The prices will drop dramatically. And if you look at technology and itself, there is a lot of innovation going on in a lot of countries right now. You've all heard of Tesla. They started selling a battery pack for in your home. And today, those prices are already much cheaper than people have anticipated in the past. And those prices will go down and down and down, because that's what technology does. I mean, if you buy a computer today, you know that the same computer will be half the price tomorrow and 2 times faster. And the same will apply to all those new technologies for energy. To make energy out of wind, sun, heat, the ground, to keep the technology, to keep the power, and to store it in your home or collectively, those technologies will drive down the costs. So eventually we may go down to 20,000 euros per home, maybe even 10,000 euros per home. And as I was explaining, when you are paying this energy bill to us, and we invest this technology in your home, you will be taken off the grid. So we don't have to pay the fossil industry anymore for those homes we take off the grid. And from that point on, you keep paying your energy bill to us. Keep paying it until the 40,000 euros or 20,000 euros or whatever it is fully paid. That's how we found a commercial model to make it very easy for people to switch. Just pay your energy bill to us, we'll take care of the rest. Yes, we need a few days in your home to put whatever technology in it or on it, or maybe collectively in a field. But that's how we can do this. And after 10 years or 15 years, it depends on how much we had to invest in your home, you have no electricity bill at all anymore. And that's how you stop feeding the junkie. So we call this power to the people, because for the very first time, you can now take control over your own energy. So let's say 100 years ago, you had to heat your home yourself through coals or wood or whatever. So in the 60s of the last century, we got into a collective system built on gas, natural gas, to heat our homes and for electricity. And today, for the very first time, because of innovations, technology innovations in power generation, power storage, but also power sharing, it is possible to take this back, to really be back in power. And this is not just something that's happening in the energy industry. This is happening all over the world in all industries. Thanks to the internet, innovations and technologies, people can do a lot themselves. For instance, my first company was launched because I could produce a live webcast on the internet. I was breaking down the barriers for people to be able to broadcast themselves, instead of just watching television. And today, after 20 years, 21 years already, people are watching more online, on demand, than broadcasters are offering them. So that shift happened. So we also think that this energy shift will happen in 10 to 20 years. So within 20 years, you will be completely off the grid, self-sustainable with your home. Wouldn't that be great? And you're not paying the system anymore. And as a great side effect, it's good for the environment, because you're not just burning up the gas anymore. So I think those are very interesting developments. We're not a company yet with this Power to the People initiative. Actually, I want to think for yourselves. Can I start a cooperation with my neighbors? Can I do this ourselves? Can we do this collectively? That's also a trend in the market, where people just sit together and say, hey guys, what can we do ourselves? So people are empowering themselves. That's very important, right? So you don't need a government for energy. You don't need those fossil companies for energy anymore. You simply don't need them anymore. The trick is to scale it up and to make sure that everyone can make this switch. And this takes time. Won't be possible in a few years, but it takes a few years to get there. So my challenge to you is to think of, how could I get my home off this grid? How could I work together with my neighbors, with my street, to go off the grid and produce my own electricity and heat my own homes? Thank you very much.